Hello, everyone, let's chat a bit more. Continuing today's topic, the RMB breaking 8. As our fundraising group grows, I found an issue. What issue is that? That is, truly like my old friends. My old Sina netizens, people who get what I mean instantly, are becoming fewer. So, I have to build concepts. Otherwise, they just won't get it, and there will be misunderstandings. So, regarding the RMB breaking 8, if I don't add more misunderstandings will arise. They'll think I said the RMB cannot break 8. No, that's not it. I'm saying why the RMB has not broken 8. At the end of this year, December 31st, didn't they bet the RMB would break 8? I'm telling you why it couldn't break 8, not that the RMB could never. Two different concepts. This year end, the RMB couldn't break 8, and I said, in the foreseeable future, within 12 months, the chance of breaking 8 is slim. But in the medium to long term, breaking 8 is almost certain. But this doesn't contradict our point that. Why? Let me break it down, and explain it clearly. Anyone, after this talk, can basically grasp the main points, and understand the big picture. To truly understand the RMB, first, we need to discuss the management mechanism of the RMB exchange rate. Where did it originate? The source dates back to around the era of Zhou Xiaochuan and Dai Xianglong, between 1995 and 2005. The People's Bank of China and the State Administration of Foreign Exchange gradually formed the modern RMB forex management system currently in operation. Before 1995, it did not exist. Before 1995, China's RMB was not freely convertible, it was a system of mandatory settlement. Before 1995, China's RMB was, meaning, any individual or business, whether public or private, if you engaged in foreign trade, and sold goods abroad, any USD you received, or yen, the People's Bank of China would collect it all, would forcibly exchange it for RMB at the official rate and give it to you. This is called mandatory settlement. And when you needed to import goods, for raw materials, technical equipment, lathes, machine tools, airplanes, you have to use foreign exchange to buy RMB abroad. They won't sell it to you. You must submit a remittance application for approval, for personal exchange when going abroad. For example, public-funded students. You need an exchange application. The state will then approve your foreign exchange. Before 1995, individuals could hardly get approval. So how did individuals go abroad? Well, in Beijing, there's a place called Fuqingmen. Fuqingmen, that main street, Funai or Fuwai, I forget, within a few kilometers, there was a Bank of China, Fuwai, the Bank of China, Fuwai branch. It was the main hub for black market FX. Before 1995, even until 2000, these people were currency exchangers. They were all authentic Beijing locals. Well, those rascals, or marginalized people today. But they made a lot of money. Because they had access to foreign currency. The official rate from the People's Bank, for example, 1 to 8.5. With them, it was 1 to 9, or even 1 to 10. They traded currency at much higher rates. You'd give them RMB. They'd give you US dollar cash. This was unofficial FX exchange. On Fuwai Street, within 100 to 200 meters, there were many. Just like ticket scalpers. Need foreign currency? Need dollars? Need US dollars? Well, that's how they'd say it. This business was undoubtedly illegal. But everyone knew, what was illegal for commoners? Well, officials could do. So dealers worked with police, and the underworld. They were all integrated, so police basically didn't stop them. During crackdowns, they'd disappear. After crackdowns, they'd work as usual. Well, the police surely collected protection fees. So these scalpers, these currency dealers, the touts. Because it was illegal, an underground industry, so they often did bad things. For example, quick hands, like magic tricks. You wanted to exchange $1,000, they counted out $1,000 for you. At home, it was 200 or 800. There was just less. They counted it out and gave it to you. But at home, it was supposed to be dollars, but it was Nigerian or Ethiopian currency that looked very much like dollars. Back then, few Chinese knew English and few recognized US dollars. They were often cheated. Well, they often relied on newspapers. This was China's real FX system then. People were bound by strict hukou and passport rules, within their designated areas. He couldn't migrate freely, or travel abroad freely, so people had no need to exchange foreign currency. So really, all of Beijing is still the North Center. The South Center, no doubt, Guangzhou and Shanghai. The daily demand for forex from individuals. From a data standpoint, I believe it's under $100,000. All of Beijing under $100,000. Shanghai, $100,000. Guangzhou, $100,000. In other words, the total daily forex for all individuals in China, let's go by the data, won't exceed $300,000 per day. You might say old Wang's data is just guesswork, but it's absolutely reliable. If any viewers, or their fathers, were in the forex business, you'll know it's reliable. Why? Because an ordinary person exchanges a few $1,000s at most, per day. If a big client said, I'll exchange $50,000 today, in Beijing. I'm not kidding. All the scalpers in Beijing might not have $100,000 to exchange $50,000 for you. It would affect the black market exchange rate. So, in the three major cities, all of China combined, individuals don't exceed $300,000. Definitely not exceeding, even far below $300,000. Maybe $30,000. That's the total volume for all of China. Why? Either through official channels or individuals. Like students abroad, in the days of Beijingers in New York, Wang Qiming and them carried only $400, $500 exchanged, $500 taken. They couldn't carry $1,000 or $2,000 cash. Not like today, where you can't go abroad without $1 million. It's a totally different concept, so younger viewers might not understand. Like today, when you travel abroad in Thailand, or the Maldives, swipe your UnionPay card. How cool is that? How normal? UnionPay cards accepted worldwide. This is very new. Its history is only 20 years old. What did people do before? Before, it was traveler's checks, cash. Or after going abroad, you'd ask locals to apply for a bank card. You'd apply for a credit card. They wouldn't give you one. If you applied at major Chinese banks, like Bank of China and CITIC Bank were early commercial banks in foreign exchange. They first issued co-branded Visa and MasterCard cards. Applicant requirements were very high. They weren't given to everyone. Back then, you'd get a Visa card or a MasterCard. If you had a Visa card or a MasterCard, dining at the Kunlun Hotel, you'd look so impressive. The waitresses all wanted to give you their number. It's no exaggeration at all. This mere period is only 20 years. So, in the era of Dai Xiaolong and Zhou Xiaochuan, the PBOC dealt with handling large forex reserves. Meaning, from China's true reform and opening up. Meaning, after 1990, the decade of opening up, WTO entry in 2000, the decade from 90 to 2000. Manufacturing began with shoes, shirts, socks, then evolved to mass exports of light goods. Large forex reserves came to the PBOC, lots of forex settlement. Forex reserves hit over 100 billion, 200 billion, 300 billion, even up to 400 billion. This was unprecedented, never happened before. Previously, only tens of billions, or even less. Who had seen hundreds of billions? Such country bumpkins. Was the PBOC a bumpkin? So the PBOC had no forex management function. Bank of China managed box forex operations. Then, seeing figures in the hundreds of billions, realized one commercial bank couldn't handle it. The central bank took back this authority, established the State Administration of Foreign Exchange. Box Forex Division split from Bank of China. For centralized management. Commercial banks could do foreign exchange business, uniformly managed by the State Forex Administration. How to manage? Actually, there was little experience. It started mainly with settlement. But settlement, by my account, means foreign exchange reserves grow and grow. It's all being settled by you. You're bound to get rich, but to spend it, you have to spend it. You need to spend it. Only then are you a bank. Otherwise, you pay interest on it. If you don't use it, then what? Buy U.S. Treasury bonds. That's the simplest. Buying U.S. Treasuries is simplest. That's why China is the largest U.S. Treasury buyer. This has always been the G25 model. Around 1998, a major event, the Asian financial crisis. This had nothing to do with China. The crisis, Thailand ended the baht's peg to the USD. The baht plummeted, devaluing Asian currencies. Soros keenly sensed an opportunity, so Soros took down the Thai baht and the Philippine peso. Soros then turned his sights to Hong Kong. He wanted to break Hong Kong's USD peg too. After breaking it, because he broke Thailand's, they announced depegging, or he'd buy up all of Thailand's USD reserves. Weren't you pegged? So he went to break it. For the same reason, he could break Hong Kong, because Hong Kong lacked large forex reserves. So Soros did the math. He leveraged into Hong Kong, selling HKD to buy USD. However many dollars I'll attack your linked rate. You must sell them to me. I'll buy until you can't hold on, until you run out of dollars, and you'll depeg the HK dollar. The rate will collapse, crushing you. This was Soros's main strategy to attack HK. In 1998, I worked at the State Commission for Reform. Let me tell you a story. I was clueless back then. I wasn't the so-called master of capital operations. I was just a recent graduate. But at the commission, I met people like them. Commission members included people like Zhou Xiaochuan. Of course, he had another role. You see, a leader at the People's Bank. When the HK dollar was attacked, the central government took it very seriously. Jiang Zemin and Zhu Rongji were in charge then. The two key figures were both from Shanghai. They understood some economics, but not foreign exchange. Jiang Zemin wouldn't understand it, nor would Zhu Rongji. So Jiang and Zhu urgently asked the People's Bank for a report on what was happening in Hong Kong. We had just recovered Hong Kong less than a year before. If the HK dollar became worthless paper like the Thai baht, then the CCP's one country, two systems would have failed. Under the British Hong Kong administration, it was fine. Why did it fail? Under the CCP? So Jiang and Zhu took this very seriously. I remember it clearly. Our former leader spoke about it. The People's Bank was summoned to report, but no one at the bank truly understood. Even Zhou Xiaochuan didn't fully grasp it. Zhou Xiaochuan knew who did. Yi Gang. Yi Gang was Zhou Xiaochuan's key protege. A cadre he focused on because Yi Gang had studied in the U.S. During his studies, he met top U.S. economists. Yi Gang understood. So Zhou Xiaochuan and Yi Gang, I'm not exaggerating. I heard this internally within Zhong Nanhai. Jiang Zemin gave them half an hour to explain it clearly. Jiang Zemin and Zhu Rongji listened to them together. Those two were freaked out. Zhou Xiaochuan and Yi Gang brought their laptops. They also brought a whiteboard. It was an urgent notice with little time to prepare. Why were these two so impressive? Why was their adaptability so strong? Because they truly understood. When you truly understand something, you can simplify complex matters, not make them more complicated. If a concept or subject, especially an unfamiliar one, is explained by an expert, who makes it more and more complex, you might not grasp it in 3 days and nights, or even 3 years. There are two possibilities. First, the expert is an idiot. He doesn't understand it himself. He's just reciting from a script. He knows the what but not the why. So he makes it more complicated. It's all theoretical knowledge. Second, the expert is a jerk. He wants to deceive you. Take your money, make you pay tuition, and fool you for life. Like those so-called Tai Chi masters. You go to Chin Village to learn, but you never truly master it. Why? Either he's incompetent, or he's malicious. Only these two possibilities. Well, there's no third option. All profound theories can be explained simply and clearly. If he's a true master in the field, he can clarify it in a few sentences. One example can make it all sink in. This applies to everything. Yi Gang and Zhou Xiaochuan truly understood. They explained it to Jiang in 20 minutes. I don't know how they explained it. I just heard this story and felt proud, because Jiang made the decision on the spot. Zhu and Jiang decided together to support Hong Kong. After the explanation, Jiang asked the question. They knew Jiang had understood. Zhu, being from Shanghai, asked, "So, is this all about who has more money? Do we have more than George Soros?" Yi Gang responded, "Based on precise calculations, Soros is using leverage. We have more capital. We can also use leverage, and our principal is much larger than his. Combined with Hong Kong, we far exceed Soros." Jiang said, "Then we bet and must win." The decision was made right then. Jiang made the call. First, only the top leader can make such a decision. After '98, we saw the Asian financial crisis. Hong Kong fended off Soros. The ammunition Hong Kong used came from Beijing. Hong Kong ran out of ammo. They couldn't hold out. Soros miscalculated by not accounting for China's forex reserves. It's like Zhang Weisheng's gold margin call back in the day. You're basing everything on historical data. You're driving by looking in the rearview mirror. So what are you afraid of? History shows left turns. So you steer left, turn the wheel left. But if a right turn comes, and you're watching the rearview, relying on past data, you'll crash and burn. Because, well, that's a black swan event. Jiang Zemin and Zhu Rongji listened to Yi Gang's report, listened to Zheng Xiaochuan's report, and understood that this was something Soros hadn't anticipated. He thought the Communist Party had accumulated hundreds of billions in foreign exchange reserves, which was about 400 billion at the time. He was reluctant to use it. How could they possibly do that? Moreover, Hong Kong and mainland China have two separate financial systems, making it impossible. So he didn't prepare the ammunition for that, leading to a complete defeat. If Soros were born today, and tried to attack Hong Kong again, if the Soros of that era were born today, he might have won. But Soros is old now. His time has passed, so that time in Hong Kong, Soros essentially accompanied him to defeat. All the money he made in Thailand, he lost it all in one go. which also left Soros very depressed. After Yi Gang and Zhou Xiaochuan gained the full trust of Jiang and Zhu, because they are practical and experienced, they understand American rules, and can communicate in terms Americans can understand. That's why Zhou Xiaochuan was able to lead the People's Bank of China for 15 years, even 16 years, making it the longest tenure in the history of the Republic, the longest-serving central bank governor in Chinese history. Otherwise, given his background, his father was Zhou Jiannan, who was only a ministerial-level official. He had no reason to serve for over a decade and retire at the vice-national level. In the position of central bank governor, it's hard to reach such heights. Zhou Xiaochuan became famous overnight under the system of Zhu Rongji and Jiang Zemin, establishing his absolute technical authority. Then, with Yi Gang's purely American-style expertise, under the governance of such American-style experts, the system they managed for the People's Bank of China's foreign exchange reserves is what Zhou Xiaochuan later promoted as the so-called pool theory, with all the trimmings, which is the theory of the Panama Canal Authority that I discussed in today's episode. To put it simply, this theory is quite straightforward. You just calculate the big picture, placing the previous mandatory foreign exchange settlement business of the People's Bank of China into a relatively freer pool. Previously, every transaction was precisely settled using foreign exchange and receiving foreign exchange. Purchasing foreign exchange was all subject to single, transaction-by-transaction approval. As China's economy grew, with the increase in China's GDP and the massive growth of China's foreign trade, such management became outdated and wasted human and financial resources, and was technically difficult to implement. So what to do? So he simply, in a closed environment, stopped micromanaging, and only managed the inflow and outflow of the pool, controlling the total amount. As for this black box, what happens inside? I don't care. First, I still strictly manage RMB under the capital account, but for RMB under the trade account, which is for imports and exports, I basically only manage the total inflow and outflow of this pool. As long as the total inflow and outflow don't change, I adopt a relatively market-based free pricing for the RMB exchange rate in this pool. That is, I don't really publish a daily official rate. Instead, there are several overseas market makers in places like Hong Kong, and several within mainland China, including our People's Bank of China. These are the authoritative institutions. It forms automatically. This is semi-marketized. The daily RMB foreign exchange rate quote is basically in this state. The current RMB Forex market quote system is a market maker system, and the market maker is essentially the central bank, the People's Bank of China. These cadres at the People's Bank of China, they know what they're doing. So, under such a refined management system, this very reasonable and scientific management system, the box Forex management system and mechanism are the world's most advanced. Except for the US Federal Reserve, it is the world's most advanced, and it's completely different from the Fed. The Fed can regulate the global Forex market, but it can't control the People's Bank of China regarding the Chinese RMB. I once gave them a nickname in my early blog posts, the Fed's Beijing office. That's the name I gave them. And later, several of their senior leaders themselves acknowledged it. They admitted it themselves. Why didn't Greenspan control Zhou Xiaochuan? Because he relied on co-governance. The US also hoped China would have such a pool. It's beneficial, not harmful, for the US, China, and Wall Street. So, there's an unspoken understanding. Thus, a model formed where the US allows China to maintain its soldiers. If China were like Myanmar, take Peng Jiasheng, for example. In Peng Jiasheng's case, you maintain those few soldiers. The Communist Party turns a blind eye and even supplies you with some bullets. Why? Go and suppress those mountain bandits in Myanmar for me. Just follow my orders. Therefore, Zhou Xiaochuan established a complete RMB buffer pool management system. It's very scientific and reasonable. It operated until around 2012, 2013, reaching its peak. That was before he emerged. Before he appeared out of nowhere. This is it. It operated so brilliantly that the IMF even started offering vice presidential positions to the box top management. Hey, the IMF granting RMB qualification was something you couldn't get without a war before. How could they give you the IMF's number 2 position in peacetime? How could they let a Chinese person hold it? How is that possible? Who do you think you are? But then, the leadership of the People's Bank of China joined the IMF. This key leader took turns, These were major breakthroughs in RMB internationalization around 2011, 2012, and 2013. And for ordinary people, because this pool was getting bigger and bigger, more and more substantial. I remember around 2013. By 2014, China's total foreign exchange reserves had surpassed $4 trillion. Of course, the buffer pool wasn't that big, but the total forex reserves were $4 trillion. This buffer pool was no small Panama Canal either. The US dollar cash in that buffer pool was at least several hundred billion. The People's Bank of China was definitely the richest entity in the world. So many foreigners wanted to follow you, to curry favor with you, to borrow from you through financial means. And the PBOC itself felt pretty good about it. So China in that era, China around 2013, was China's most open period. People could freely exchange $50,000 annually with just their ID card. And no reason was needed. Any Chinese citizen just had to say at the bank counter, "I want to travel abroad," and they'd give you $50,000. Back when I was emigrating, around those years. It was still like this until 2015, even 2016. I was in Beijing. For example, this is my personal experience. I exchanged $50,000 at Minqing Bank. Right after, across the street from Minqing Bank, was China Merchants Bank. I went to China Merchants Bank and exchanged another $50,000. The little counter manager at CMB would ask you, the teller would ask, "Have you used your annual quota this year?" Just verbally asking. I'd say no. They'd give me another $50,000. Then I'd go to Citic Bank for another $50,000. I exchanged $150,000 in a single day. My personal experience, no one was stopping you at all. And in that era, overseas, in Vancouver, in Los Angeles, the fees for underground banks were pushed very low. Because it was so easy for people to exchange currency, underground banks were squeezed until it was unprofitable. They could only add 1%, 1.5%. What does this mean? A huge amount of RMB, money. So the US wanted the RMB to appreciate, because the Americans understood, once your RMB appreciates, your trade competitiveness weakens, then the flow of dollars into China wouldn't be so fast. The US also didn't want China to grow that big, so they gently applied pressure for RMB appreciation, and China's side, the Fed's Beijing office, cooperated nicely. A gentle appreciation. You tell me to rise by 1, I rise by 0.1, Dad, I won't slap you in the face either. I rose, and that dad was also sensible. Okay? Good, son. You rise a bit more for me. Good, I'll raise it by 0.1. The RMB to USD rate rose step by step from 7 something to 5, 1:6, 1:6 something. At its peak, it was around 1:6 something. Oh, did it ever break below 5? I can't remember. I think it briefly broke 6. Check it if you're curious. Around 2017, 2018, that was the RMB's peak against the USD. Under Zhou Xiaochuan and Yi Gang's pool theory management, the RMB developed a self-adjusting mechanism. This mechanism could have worked very well. So much so that Alibaba and Tencent launched overseas payments. They wanted a piece of the overseas payment market. So every Chinese person in Vancouver could use Alipay. Even today, at places like TNT Supermarket, or Chinese restaurants, you can scan to pay when dining. It's just like back home. It charges you at the current exchange rate. But the restaurant or TNT owner doesn't receive RMB. It's converted to Canadian dollars by China's Forex Authority, or to US dollars in the States, and then given to them. This means the People's Bank's pool has enough USD. That's what makes this possible. So my canary is when Alipay/WeChat stop overseas payments. When overseas retail payments stop, your canary is dead again. Why? Let the data speak. Do you know about Canada? Take Canada for example. The biggest Chinese supermarket accepting them is TNT. TNT has about a dozen large supermarkets across Canada, fewer than 20 major stores. Its total annual sales are between 1 and 2 billion Canadian dollars. That's 1 to 2 billion Canadian dollars per year. That's Canada's largest Chinese supermarket. It doesn't exceed 2 billion Canadian dollars. It's a publicly listed company, acquired by Loblaw, the supermarket chain owner. Well, de Tonghua is the largest Chinese client group, any of his other Chinese sales groups. The sales units are not as large as the large amount of overseas payments paid by Tonghua. That is to say, Tonghua has a maximum of 10 to 2 billion Canadian dollars a year. Moreover, it is impossible for all 10 to 2 billion Canadian dollars to use WeChat and Alipay. Most of them are native Canadians. For example, we use a local Canadian credit card, or a local Canadian debit card to pay for it. We will not use a RMB to pay for it. Well, let me put it this way. Scientific statistics should have 1/3 guests or 1/4 guests use this. Alipay or WeChat Pay, 3/4 guests are paid in Canadian local currency. The 1/4 had 2 billion sales that year. This is the upper limit. Annual sales 2.1 billion. How much is the 1/4? 1/4 is 0.5 billion Canadian dollars. That means all of Canada. The demand for a year's RMB settlement is only 0.5 billion Canadian dollars. Los Angeles is pretty much the same. This is supermarket retail. That catering retail is actually smaller than that of Greater China. Let's say it equals Greater China. It's also 0.5 billion home. In fact, it is completely impossible because the Chinese restaurants in Canada are not that big. Even if we expect $1 billion Canadian dollars in leniency, this is all Canada needs. The United States is 10 times the size of Canada, but the number of Chinese in the United States is about the same as that in Canada. Then we'll give twice as much relief to American cuisine. The United States is $2 billion. US $2 billion commercial retail and catering. Exchange this demand for RMB payment. In other words, the United States plus Canada $3 billion is enough. $3 billion doesn't cost a year. Europe, Japan, and Oceania add up to less than $5 billion a whole year. So $5 billion for China's foreign exchange reserve pool and buffer pool, for the Panama Canal Authority. Do you think $5 billion is a sprinkle of water, right? That's right, he's like a little finger. He doesn't have his total general influence at all, but he gives you a very good feeling. Why do all your Chinese think the motherland is so strong? Is the motherland good? I can now use WeChat and Alipay to buy things casually in Canada. I'm so awesome, to give you this illusion. Make your heart especially safe. So the value of the $5 billion spent. Well, the entire $5 billion is less than a 5% in his fund control pool, so he too should pay the $5 billion. Because it's $5 billion and a half, it's not even 10 times as much as 1/10 of a job. It can be 100 times more effective, consoling confidence, to build such confidence in the RMB and the centripetal force of overseas Chinese. The so-called support and confidence of overseas Chinese in the motherland. So when he couldn't pay out the $5 billion, the $5 billion was his first cut. Why? This $5 billion is a wave, is dispensable. He must have cut the $5 billion first. This $5 billion cut means he has a big problem. He couldn't even reconcile his $5 billion position. Cash positions are coordinated for a year, not a day. Oh. Therefore, we can accurately judge that the RMB cannot carry it. This pool must further absorb dollars, absorption of foreign exchange. So the yuan must be devalued. To the next order of magnitude. The next digital level is equal to your first line of defense being lost. Push another line of defense. Because once you devalue the RMB, the export competitiveness of all commodities is strong. A lot of foreign currency came in. After the foreign exchange came in, there was water in its pool again. So it's regulated in such a hierarchical way that at present, there are all kinds of indications. Except for the RMB currency swap between Argentina and Russia. I almost poked a hole in their RMB fund manager. After such a system risk in the short term. Quickly catch up. He regained a new balance. Before the balance point of this, it was between US dollar and RMB 1 to 7, 6.8 to 7, broken 7. This building is directly broken 7, lie down to the 7.7. It's even possible that he blocked the 7.8 when it broke. Now go back slowly. But what do you think? Can he go back to 1 to 7? I don't think it's likely. Why are their positions really tight? Because your foreign trade is now suppressed like this. China's economy has produced this dismal look, so his recovery rate is very slow. The downward impact is greater than the upward force. Do you think he will break 8? And he's not. Because he's already retreated to the first line of defense. Now on the second line of defense. If it breaks 8, isn't the second line of defense broken? So by this judgment, let me tell you, in the short term, I actually said it in October. I remember October, right? I said it was impossible to break 8 at the end of the year. Why? Because I know his system. I also know that his foreign exchange reserves, this size of this reservoir, we can accurately judge that he is indeed not exhausted at present. Well, through such a kind of judgment, we can accurately judge his second line of defense. At present, that is to say, the first line of defense pushed to at present is 8. He's not going to lose that line of defense anytime soon, unless there is a major international and foreign emergency, so it doesn't miss. So what's the emergency? Taiwan is definitely a sudden situation. Trump's coming to power is an emergency. Lai Ching-te's rise to power is a sudden situation. Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine failed. This is all a sudden situation. Therefore, these emergencies will cause changes in the RMB exchange rate, because it will cause changes in China's foreign trade. Everyone understands, this is broken and crushed to talk about the RMB exchange rate. I hope that we can prevent people from having an illusion. So that is to say, in the process of the yuan's correction, it's a good deal for you to change RMB into US dollars. Why? Because the dollar, though spamming, but it is, After all, the world's first reserve and trade demand currency. And the world is up to the United States. When America and the world are in crisis, there is no doubt that there will be a crisis in the United States and the world. When there is a crisis in the United States and the world, the exchange rate of the US dollar will not depreciate. Instead, it will appreciate. Because the dollar is currently the cash recognized by everyone on this planet. So when World War III did start, instead, the dollar will become valuable. All people only recognize dollars. Of course gold will too. So if you can't buy dollars in the country, it's perfectly okay to buy 999949 or 3915 gold bars. Little gold bars. I told you not to buy large gold bars, because the bigger the more fake. First buy a small one, 10 grams, 20 grams, because it's thin. The 2mm gold tester pierced it in one shot. He can't adulterate it. You can buy a gold tester in Shuaibei Shenzhen. You can check it at home. It's called a polymetallic spectrum analyzer. You take a piece of fucking iron first. Take your shell in it and cover it. He tells you what percentage of iron Fe is. What is the percentage of copper? It's clear. What percent do you put your gold bars into the Liu? Therefore, Yan Jingyi cannot be fake. Liquid crystal instrument, there's no need to do fake, because his technique is very simple. Why would he fake it? It's like making a copycat phone. Why do people want to give you a fake, right? Therefore, as soon as you buy a liquid crystal silver, you can clearly check out the authenticity of this small gold bar. But gold bars, if they exceed 100 grams, he couldn't get through later, unless you cut it up. Otherwise, he adulterated you inside. Heart you can't see it. So first buy the small one. Small you spend up. When you're on the run, you're not in your ass. You can put it in. So buy small gold bars instead of big gold bars. Second, I bought gold bars without packaging or sealing. Buy gold bars that you can touch with your hands. Don't buy one that's tightly sealed with, hard plastic and PU resin. The kind with a dragon printed inside. Gold bars are Costco gold bars. Do not buy. I suspect the Costco gold bar is fake. You know that, right? Because he got a perfectly sealed package. It's not at all unscientific. Totally unnecessary, because gold never corrodes. Gold will never rust. You seal it with a fucking plastic seal. The only purpose is not to let you see what is inside. Don't let your cash hit it together. So no matter how big it is, the company that makes the bars, as long as it is plastic, as long as it has the beautiful color pattern of carved dragon and painted phoenix on it, must not buy, because the color pattern means that it is doped with other metal substances. At that time, Yan Jingyi could not be verified. For example, there's a dragon in this one that's red or green. As soon as you hit Yan Jing, there will be impurities. Then you don't know whether it is the impurity of this color or the metal impurity. I bought a pure yellow, sneak yellow, that gold bar. Now there are many friends in Shenzhen. Just take the subway to Hong Kong and Kowloon to buy that little gold bar. This is the little gold bar, right? Especially good. That Hong Kong business will never give you adulteration. So, gold bars can, dollars can. Of course, the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar can actually be both. But, in the long run, that is, I am talking about 10, 20, 30 years. Look at it this way, the dollar is the best. The Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar are, after all, mining or resource coins. It fluctuates greatly, sometimes very high, but sometimes it falls very low. Everything is centered on the dollar as the main axis in measuring the value of the world. So it's right to change into dollars, it's right. So today I'm going to put foreign exchange. Basically, I think I can think of the corners. What may cause ambiguity has been made clear. I hope I can give you some thoughts, can bring some useful knowledge to everyone. So, let's, as an ordinary person, in the process of growing up, don't be discouraged. You should always wipe. You can make real progress. Insist on watching Wang's video. Watch every episode 5 times. Insist on taking notes. I believe you will become a Buddha in 3 to 5 years. At least the money will be close to you. Hey, I'm not bragging. This channel comes with the function of making money. Why am I not bragging? Everyone is familiar with mine, including the circle of friends around you can prove it in the past. I paid for countless people on behalf of countless people. I don't have much money myself. But the people I play with, alas, all kinds of money, all kinds of big money. Why? The lucky cat system. So, you think I'm a class? That's when we acquired some, publicly traded companies. There are some definitions given to me by the second generation of Red. They came back from America. I said, who do you think I am? They say you're bank. You're a typical banker. It's the bankers. So, bank itself may not be rich, but bank could make a lot of people rich. Well, you see my channel actually comes with a money-making function. Click a lot to subscribe to the little bell, and then a lot of comments. How many times do you send emails? Everyone is getting rich quickly. Wang Kai will give you some credit. I've been looking for you guys. Money Cokes. Goodbye.